Hello there, thank you for joining me as we take another look at this great psalm that is Psalm 90, a psalm of Moses, in fact the only psalm in our Psalter attributed to Moses. We saw in the first section of this psalm, up to verse 11, that Moses is reflecting on the eternality of God as compared to the mortality of human beings. And we notice some of the qualities of God, the attributes of God, that Moses draws on here. But now, having reflected on those two issues, the eternality of God and the mortality of man, Moses turns to God in prayer. So, he says in verse 12, because of this, in the light of this, I need you to do certain things for us. The prayers are expressed in the plural. It's satisfy us, make us, and so on. But they could equally, justifiably be prayed in the singular. Do this to me rather than to us. In bygone days, this sort of prayer would be called prayers of supplication. And they represent what all true praying really is. It's the creaturely awareness of their own creatureliness, but also the greatness of their God to whom they come in prayer. So let me just run you through the prayers in this second part of the psalm. First of all, in verse 12, we have teach us. Teach us to number our days. Not how many we have, but how few we have. Teach me not how long life is, but how short life is, because that's what he's been thinking about in the first part of the psalm. And we need to be taught continually this truth so that we can live wisely and make the most of the days that we have, because they are very limited. And then in verse 13, grace us. You see, if time is so short, and I am so weak, and God is so great, and judgment is so awful, then nothing is more important at this moment in time than to make sure that I am right with God. And so Moses prays to God, relent from wrath and grace us. And then verse 14, satisfy us with your steadfast love. And I think he says in the morning because he's praying this on a daily basis. You see, as the hymn writer puts it, from the best bliss that earth affords, we turn unfilled to thee again. Satisfy my heart, not with the things of the world, for they don't satisfy, but with your steadfast love. And then verse 15, what a bold prayer this is. He prays here that you would compensate us. It's a prayer that our blessings and our joys would be at least equal to our trials and our afflictions. Make us glad for as many days as you have afflicted us and as many years as we have seen evil. One writer I remember reading some time ago uses the illustration of a dog burying a bone by digging a hole in the ground, but as he digs the hole, he piles up a little mound of earth. And so he says, with the spade that God uses to dig deep into our lives, he piles up a mountain of blessings. Moses is praying here, remind us that our trials are light and momentary and are preparing for us an eternity of joy. Then verse 16, show us. You see, so often God is at work in ways we can't see or we're not even aware of. But here, the psalmist prays that God would, in his will and in his way, grant us the encouragement of seeing something of the fruit of some of the evidences of his hand at work in us and through us. That is a very human prayer, isn't it? That's a creaturely prayer. Someone has said, for God's servants to be unaware of what God is doing and not to see some dim glimpse of the success of God's work can cause real discouragement and a sense of hopelessness. And so he asks God to do this, but notice also in such a way that even the next generation will see the glorious power of God at work. And then finally, verse 17, he prays, establish us, or at least establish the work of our hands. We will be gone before we know it, because as we've seen, our lives are fleeting and frail, but we want to leave a lasting legacy of the work that God will continue beyond our allotted time span. That's again a very human desire. We want to leave a legacy, but the point here is not a legacy to our name or of our accomplishments, but a legacy to God's glory. Friends, I'm not sure if there's a greater need than this today. for Christian men and women to live with an eternal perspective. I remember some years ago a friend telling me how he resigned from a high-flying job to become a missionary. And when he told his boss that, his boss tried to advise him against such a move, telling him, "You need to think of the future." To which my friend replied, "Believe me, I'm thinking much more about the future than you could ever imagine." Isn't that a great answer? Isn't that a great perspective on life? Here's a thought. How about praying these prayers every morning as you begin each new day, as you begin each new week perhaps, and see how God recalibrates the view of life and the world around you. The Lord bless you. Join me again as we take a look next time at Psalm 91.